Hello, welcome to the Adam Fitch Podcast. I am Adam Fitch, and today I'm joined by probably my favourite esports host, and I am not biased at all. I'm here with Frankie Ward. Thank you for joining me, Frankie.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you. I did not know that.
No, it's true. It's true. People are not like me for that, but hey, it is what it is. So I guess when people start out podcasts, what they tend to do is kind of ask people to introduce themselves. But I don't want you to repeat things you've more than likely said like 50 times. So instead, I'll just kind of ask, like, why esports? Why are you working in esports? And why is it something that attracts you as such?
So my origin story in esports is basically I did a BBC show or coverage of League of Legends in 2015 at Worlds because it was in London. And I just fell in love with it. I was working with Joe Miller, who was working for Riot at the time, and we had Demon, aka Lee Smith, casting with James O'Leary, who now works for Splice for their LEC team, which is the League of Legends European series, if anyone's not familiar with League. And I just loved it. And I'd always loved video games, but I didn't realize I could work in it. And then I discovered esports, and I was like, these people are amazing, and this community, this audience is amazing. How do I not know about this? I was just really curious, discovered what Twitch was, and then that was that really. Went to Twitch as a producer, was itching to do more esports, but most of what I was doing wasn't aligned with it, bar running an esports stage at Insomnia, really. So I just started hosting on the side to kind of fulfill that desire of being in esports, and then it ended up pretty much being my full-time thing.
Oh, that's good going. So, I'll jump straight into something that people are talking about a lot at the moment. I think James Banks came out and spoke about it recently, and I think Henry G has as well. So, tournament organisers, event organisers have not been too forthcoming with dates and schedules and stuff for events, and that can cause a bit of problem when it comes to having a social life or having a life outside of working at all. And I know sometimes you can be travelling from one place to another working events. Like, have you been subject to this kind of thing? Obviously, I'm not asking you to jeopardize any relationships with organisers, but as much as you're willing to speak on that, is it a problem for yourself?
My boyfriend is a very patient man, I shall say that. You never know if you're going to get asked to fill in for someone. Like poor James Banks had a family emergency essentially before ESL1 New York, and luckily I happened to have that weekend off, and so I ended up going to Cologne to fill in on the desk for him. And I remember ringing my boyfriend and being like, I'm so sorry. I don't even think we had plans that weekend, but it was more that we actually had a weekend together. And he was really supportive of me going off. So sometimes it's a case of being free, ready, willing, able to step up and to fill in, because that was the first ESL1 I'd ever done in anything. I went on to do ESL1 Hamburg stage hosting for Clash of Clans, but certainly for Counter-Strike, doing ESL1 for me was a big deal. And then there's the issue sometimes where you commit to something in advance. So I did Omen Esports Report last year, which I loved. I loved that team, loved the show, brilliant working with Parla, but I had to turn some things down because I'd committed to these dates. So what that meant was I couldn't do it this year. So sometimes it's a double-edged sword. If you actually commit to something very early, then you might miss out on something else. And so what I personally want right now is for tournament organisers to come forth and say, we know you're good. We know you don't get complacent for being hired. We know you're going to work really hard, and the longer lead time you have, the more time you're going to have to be able to prep if it's a new game. So yes, we would like you. I actually had a couple of tournament organisers who have done that. Okay. But I don't know at the same time what other dates for things are. So I feel guilty right now because I want it that way. And I have a couple who are trying to make my life much easier right now, but I'm making their life difficult because I'm still not committing either. So it's almost like buying a house where I'm not chain free right now. There are people who might do the job if I say no to it, who are waiting behind me. And there's another tournament organizer in front who hasn't told me if they need me or what their dates are yet. So I'm kind of stuck in something. So I totally am on the side of talent in saying we need to know dates, but I also understand from tournament organisers' perspective that they need to secure sponsors. They might have to move their dates because of the major change, all those kinds of things. So we're all in this boat together, but if anyone would like to hire me for next year, then please get in touch now.
Well, I was thinking I might hire you to host the Adam Fitch Podcast. It'll be in my name, but you're a better host than me. So
No, I can't do I can't do accents, Adam. I'd be rubbish.
No, you just need to be yourself. You don't have to pretend to be me, right? You just promote my name, really, my brand as such.
I'll do my best.
So obviously in the past year or two, I guess last year, you've become quite a regular piece of talent in CS:GO events.
Yeah, I think this year especially, I did 3 events last year. One of them was May, one was June, and one was October. So I wasn't too regular, which is why when I came to the IM Katowice, people were like, "Who the hell is this?"
But with that in mind, like the talent pool in CS:GO is quite closed, in my opinion. Like you see the same talent at a bunch of different events, often close together. So how was it kind of integrating into that? Was it easy to do so, or were people accommodating like members of talent and such, or?
I remember doing during the Face It minor, I was very fortunate. I had Vendetta, I had Maniac, and I had Pimp on the desk with me. I mean, Pimp was quite sassy with me on the desk. I ended up calling Pimp and Halver like my desk sons, because Maniac came a few days later, and Maniac's sort of very gentlemanly, and like Halver is like Vendetta is like this angel. He's like one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. And Pimp's a rascal, isn't he? So I was very fortunate that I had those guys with me, that James Bardolph saw me do this one like tiny event called the Gandon Premier, and took a chance on me. So yeah, I feel very fortunate in that regard. When I did the Star Series 6 in Kiev in October, which is quite an intense event, I was doing very, very long days on that. And I was really looked after by the talent there as well. So I'd met Stunner once before, I met Sponge once before. And I was already friends with Henry G and A New Machine as well before I started Counter-Strike. But Sponge and Stunner like really looked after me, because it's quite isolating otherwise. So I was really, really lucky in that sense. But then when I came into Katowice, it was a bit harder, because suddenly people were actually taking notice of the fact that I was there. And I think I needed to be a bit more forthcoming and being like, this is really hard. And instead I kind of kept myself to myself in that sense. Right. But like, so that was when it got hard. It wasn't hard before then. I know that sounds so stupid, but it wasn't hard. Like all the talent have been really nice to me, but I felt isolated a bit more in Katowice, because it was a 3-week long event, and I was definitely kind of had to start learning to do things like avoiding Reddit and this, that, and the other, and I didn't really know who to talk to about it. Yeah. So that's something I kind of came out recently and said, because it was hard, and it's much better now. And yeah, I'm very lucky that I get to go between different games as well. So I get to experience different Stars Green Rooms and work with lots and lots of different people. So basically a host whore. well, speak to people. I just speak to them, Adam.
Yeah, but this leads into my next point quite well, actually. So yes, obviously you speak to people and speak about people, but a lot of research has to go into that, so you know what's what. Especially if you haven't worked, say, the previous event leading into this, you need to know what's kind of happening to carry on the storylines and such, right? So, and I assume a lot of research has to go into that, and
yes, absolutely,
and that's unpaid. Right, so can you? I assume it is like the time you take at home or in airports or before the events. So can you kind of discuss that a little bit, kind of the process and how much work really goes into that? Because I think a lot of people ignore it.
So for me, if my day rate kind of includes that research, right? I come prepped, so I do spend time that I'm not technically on paper paid for working, and I consider that's what you get when you hire me, right? I suppose my brand is I'm energetic, I'm enthusiastic, but I know my shit, and I research very thoroughly. And so it got really hard during times of this year to do that, because I was working back to back and I was constantly traveling, and my body was on different time zones and going crazy. But because I was doing so much Counter-Strike, so I've done 18 Counter-Strike events as we speak, got one more this year. I was following the teams around, I was following their storylines and things like that, and I would not be able to do my job without HLTV. Just the stats. I don't have much time to watch events when I'm not at them, because I'm normally working a different event, or I have to give my brain a rest. It can be very, very stressful when you're watching the same thing well, you're not watching the same thing, but you know what I mean? You're watching the same game, and it will all kind of merge into one. So listening to podcasts can be really helpful, looking at HLTV, looking at the numbers and things like that. If I can't dedicate 3 hours to watching or 4 hours to watching the best of three, right?
Yeah.
So for me, my process for Counter-Strike, for example, I will look at Wikipedia and I'll look at the overall results. I will go to a team page on HLTV and I will go to their stats and look at their match stats, and I will literally look at all the teams they played recently. I'll see all their results and the teams recently that they've been playing, whether it's mostly online or offline. I will then go into those matches themselves and look at the map. So I'll be able to find out their map pool by looking at their last 10 events. I will look at obviously how they performed individually as players on the team, and also how they tended to perform in general, like T sides, CT sides, CT sides. It is a bit hard if I don't know the team. Like DreamHack Opens are harder to work towards because we don't really know too much about the team. So I need to lean on the analysts much more. But I'll also still look at those individual players. So hey, this is the Benelux qualifying team, so know nothing about them, but I can literally look at the weapons they use and I can go, all right, this person's the AWPer, for example. So there are things that you can do to help yourself. I will also sometimes email teams or players and go, hey, tell me about yourself. So I will literally attack from all angles. So I had like a 30-page document going into IE Katowice, and now a lot of that knowledge is in my brain, but I need to be more spontaneous in terms of not panicking so much if I get asked to do interviews, because I want to look at my notes where to be honest, it's already in my brain. I just need a chance to like think about how I want to tackle that interview and how I want to write the questions and stuff. So like I know that I need to be more spontaneous sometimes, but I get so terrified that if I ask a really open question, then the audience is going to be like, she knows nothing. So yeah, I take it very seriously.
Well, I mean, you still get some of those comments though, right? Even though you obviously know your shit. And it'll go in the Twitch chat, and it'll be on Twitter, and it'll be Reddit, and it'll be HLTV forums. Like, even in your own Twitch chat, you get people. Like, I tuned into your stream quickly yesterday.
Oh, God.
I don't know if you saw that, but somebody was telling you, like, oh, you need to change your mouse sensitivity. It's like, right, I'm playing the game. I will figure it out. Like, how the hell do you cope with that? And why do you think people think you give a shit about their input? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Everyone's their own favourite critic, I guess, but...
Yeah, and I go back through my VODs of things, and I do my own criticism. I give my own feedback. If production gives me feedback, then great. But I don't take feedback from the audience. And there are some talent that do, and that's absolutely fine with them. But I do not do that, because when it came to the major, there were people saying things about me on Reddit that were not true. People saying I only asked yes/no questions, or that I only asked how do you feel, those kinds of things, and that was not the case. And that was really distressing to me at the time, because I had no control over that. So people were saying things and they were not true. But of course, if one person says something, then other people agree and people pile on.
All the time.
And then occasionally I would see like glimmers of hope. I'd see someone replying and saying, that's not actually true. She's been doing this, this, and this. So sometimes I would see these comments and go, okay, actually just keep doing what you're doing. And then what happened over the course of several events was people started to get used to me, and the comments became less like that. And of course there are still going to be negative comments, because not everyone's going to like me, and that's absolutely fine. And not everyone is even going to respect me, which is slightly more distressing, but that's, I have to take that. That does come with a job. It doesn't mean I should have to put up with people writing horrendous things about me, because no one should have to put up with that. It doesn't matter whether you're in the public eye or not. On Twitch, can be very difficult. I am a lot more I'm a lot tougher on people on Twitch, because
I noticed that yesterday.
space.
I was like, this is Frankie. I was like, go on.
Yeah, because it's my space. And if someone comes up to you, no one will come up to you on the street and say you're holding your handbag wrong. No one will come up to you on the street usually and say you're not walking properly. And people come to my Twitch chat and they will literally talk about me like I'm not there. They will literally tell me what I'm doing wrong and all that kind of thing. I'm the person who watches back VODs and goes, I said basically too much in that interview. I did this, that, and the other. I talked too slowly there. I pick up on things. I've got so much better at Counter-Strike since I started really playing it more regularly. And that's because I self-feedback. I learn from my mistakes. when people jump in on Twitch chat and tell me the mistakes I'm making, well, one, sometimes actually that wasn't the mistake I made, but two, that takes something away from me. Like when we were young and we were learning to play, I don't know, Tekken on our PlayStation 1, we maybe had a brother or sister like watching us, but we didn't have 200 people all telling us at the same time their opinions on what we were doing wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I do share my gameplay experience with the community, but it doesn't give them a right to take away my enjoyment. And so I shut that down very quickly, especially like yesterday, someone came and I wasn't taking too much notice of Twitch chat because I was trying to get a rank. And I looked across and someone was saying, they were making a point and they were essentially dicking on feminism and saying you can take that to Reddit and argue it there. But they'd given their own opinion at the same time, and it was quite a misogynist opinion. So I told them to just get out of my Twitch chat because that's not the place. I don't want to have that conversation there and then. And they got very upset about it. But then lots of people in Twitch chat corrected them and said, they were like, I didn't start it. And people said, well, you actually did. You had an act of aggression when you were making your point. So you have to accept that you've been corrected. Mm-hmm. I do panic sometimes because I am like, I swear like a sailor. I've got an adult warning on my channel. But so sometimes I do worry after doing a stream. I'm just like, oh God, are people going to see this and not like want to work with me? But then I'm a human playing a video game. So I tend to not be too mean directly to people. On my Twitch chat, I try not to be. I say they're acting like an idiot rather than they're specifically an idiot. I don't know if that makes it better, but yeah.
Well, why do you think people will come into your Twitch chat, right? So you're playing CS:GO and interacting with some people, right? Why do they feel the need to come in and just discuss feminism and give their views on things that are completely irrelevant to what's happening at the time? Do you think it's purely because you're a woman?
I think it partly is because I'm a woman playing Counter-Strike, and I had 100 or so more views than average yesterday when this person came into my chat. So someone might have posted on HLTV that I was streaming. And so people came in, and on HLTV, they have those kind of conversations all the time. And, you know, there's posts about me discussing what I look like undressed, all that kind of thing. So,
oh, wow, really?
Oh, God, yeah. Just Google Frankie HLTV or HLTV forums and like you'll see, because I was trying to explain it to someone the other day and I'd actually never Googled Frankie HLTV, but I thought I'd do it to just show them. And literally the post that came up, I was like, the tones of these posts have changed from how they were months and months ago, but they are still talking about what I look like naked. So, you know, never change HLTV. Sarcasm. So yeah, I think that a group decided to come in, and that sometimes happens, and then they decided to bring that agenda to my chat to try and tilt me in that way. But yeah, I am trying to get better at just ignoring it when people backseat or give me tips, but I still can't help myself. I need to stop. I need to just ignore it. But it's like the first time someone backseated me and it upset me on Twitch was when I was playing the game Inside and I was trying to work out a puzzle.
Okay.
And Inside, your kid dies. You're playing as a kid and you die when you get it wrong. And it's quite distressing. The sound design is very effective. And someone came into my chat and I looked across to my chat at the wrong time and they told me how to do the puzzle. And I was livid. I was really upset that someone would do that. Because I hadn't asked. Mm-hmm. They just came in and they spoiled a moment, because even if I got that challenge right without seeing what they had written, then I would have looked across and it would have looked like I'd done it because of them. And that for me is a big thing. Like if I get a quad kill, luckily in Counter-Strike, it's not because someone told me my crosshair placement was bad. So that's one of the joys of Counter-Strike, is like people's backseating doesn't affect me in the same way. Mm-hmm. But people don't understand that tips that you haven't asked for is a type of backseating. They're like, it's just tips. And they'll go, if she doesn't want to get better, then she can just stay a rubbish player. Well, look, I'm not a great player. I know that, but I also, I've got so much better, and I'm quite good at clutching now, it turns out, because my headphones are really bloody good, or maybe it's my game sense, but I know where people are coming from. So normally if I lose those situations, it doesn't tend to be because I was taken by surprise. It tends to be because I missed a shot or I had to reload. Basically, that's kind of what happens. So yeah. I'm not a professional by any means. I am a below average player, I'm sure, but I'm getting there.
I think maybe that's part of like streaming to a majority esports audience, right? Where they're used to watching that quote unquote the best players of all time, right? And then they go to they go and watch somebody who's not the best, but is like improving, obviously, and then you're not improving through their comments. It's like you're working things out yourself. But they're so used to everyone having to be the best, and if Simple doesn't get the 1v5 clutch, they'd flame him if he got 4 of them, for example. So it's maybe more of like an esports and a bigger problem, perhaps. But still, it's crazy. Like I'll tweet out something, and people will tell me my tweet is wrong, or ask why I've tweeted, and it's sort of just like, well, it's my Twitter. You can easily just not follow me, and if you're not following me and asking it, then like you're just gonna get blocked. People are so strange, and I think social media and YouTube and Twitch and stuff kind of makes people feel more perhaps significant than what they are, in a sense. Like everyone's significant in their own right, but some people think that their opinion is the way, or their way is the only way, and it certainly doesn't work like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really fortunate that people watch me on Twitch. I do love that community, and it does self-police when people backseat and things like that. I have regulars who will correct them or ask them not to do it. I have fantastic mods who literally ask for nothing in return. Okay. I stream so ad hoc anyway because I'm normally traveling, so I'm really fortunate that I have people who want to hang out. And then there obviously that comes with people who are there for other reasons. I had someone griefing me the other day who was stabbing me or just shooting me or just literally blocking my path when we're playing on cash, and flash banging constantly. And it was a pop flash game. That's how the guy got in, because he'd been banned from my Twitch chat. And it was really unfortunate because there were people from my Twitch chat who wanted to play a game of CS. And this guy wasted 45 minutes of our time because I didn't want to quit the game because I had those people there in the match. But everyone on the opposite team as well were getting really annoyed at this guy as well, like because it wasn't a real game. And it's a shame that someone had the power to do that. But I decided not to tweet about it because I didn't want to give that guy attention, because I knew that guy would go to my Twitter. He would try and see if I wrote anything about it. And no, I'm not going to do that. I'm mentioning it now on this blog on here because it was last week.
Nobody will watch this anyway, don't worry.
No. Well, this guy won't because he hasn't got taste, so it's fine.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
No, nothing with my name attached will ever make waves. Don't worry about that.
Don't be silly. Don't say that. You won a UK Esports Award.
Okay, we'll talk about that then, right? Because obviously we'd been at a couple of events together. I was there working as press, you were there hosting and such, but we never got to meet each other. And then just as the ESI, the Esports Insider team, were like forcing me to go and take a picture with the award and them, like I finally got to meet yourself, right? And you also won on that night.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How much importance do you place on awards? I guess it's twofold. Like one on awards for the industry in general, and I guess for the UK in general.
Yeah.
And then for yourself, like personally, how do you feel about them?
So the UK one is really, really lovely. So I won it last year as well. Really lovely. I felt this year, I felt that last year was an amazing vote of confidence. And then this year I was a bit like, oh, should I be nominated because there are other people doing more in the UK? And then I thought about it and realized I had done a few things in the UK, so actually I shouldn't maybe write myself off for it. This year, this way talking about awards because now I sound like really, but I got nominated for the International Esports Awards, or the Esports Awards. Yeah, and I wasn't expecting that, especially as the previous year I'd gone along and given out Unsung Hero of the Year and nominated my own tit tape. But to get nominated for that was really surprising, and it did mean something in that moment. But I'm still slightly skeptical about those things because I won't win one. I haven't been around for long enough. I don't deserve to win the host of the year one, and I'm not going to get voted for either. So being nominated is nice because it sort of says, okay, right, we see you. But I think it's really difficult because with esports awards, there are so many different scenes, so many different platforms, mediums, different types of games and stuff like that. So how do you judge it? I saw the Game Awards have they've done esports again this year.
Yeah.
And I'd be really curious to see the committee for that. Not because I'm not nominated. I wouldn't expect to be nominated because there's only like 4 or 5 nominees. They're exactly the same as last year's nominees, and they're all fantastic. And they're all amazing in their field. So absolutely fair play. But I don't know how their system works for how they nominate their like teams of the year and things like that. Because I think last year they had team of the year, but they didn't specifically say. I think Cloud9 won, but they didn't specifically say for what game it was. I can't remember.
Well, they've changed
I think they're a bit
year.
better this year.
They've changed that this year, and I think I could be wrong, but I'm like 90% sure that there are people on the website, or it does show the publications that voted and stuff like that. It's, at least for the
wicked.
esports
Well, there you
awards,
go.
So there's a bit more transparency there, but it is of course it is always just a popularity thing, right? And it's just like.
And people are popular for a reason, though, Adam. That's the thing. People are popular for a reason. For me, the most important thing is like getting hired. Because I wasn't necessarily hugely popular when I started doing Counter-Strike, for example. Like, I wasn't popular with that audience, but tournament organizers took a chance on me and kept hiring me. So for me, it's much more important that I'm working and I'm being able to afford new windows for the bloody wreck that we're renovating, me and my boyfriend, than having a trophy to put in that house. And like, when I look at esports awards this year, Golden Boy won. And totally deserved to. Like,
well, he's everywhere.
What an incredible talent. Yeah, and he had such a huge year. And I've worked with Alex a few times, and he's a superstar in every sense. It's not just his presence on screen and his commitment and charisma and talent there. It's also what he does off screen. It's the way that he interacts with production, the other talent. Like, Alex is someone who is old school in the sense that he's the center of the production. He brings people together. He makes everyone feel good about themselves, and that makes the show better. It's not just about what he's doing on screen, it's about what he's doing off it as well. He is an absolute team player. He's a superstar, and I'm so lucky to have worked with him because he's taught me a lot, and he helped me believe in myself a bit more. So for me, I've got all the time in the world for Alex and all the other nominees on that list as well. I haven't met a couple of them, but like people like Shocks, Machine, Stunner, like they mean a lot. Like, to me, they're people I really look up to.
Mm-hmm. So last year you worked at PGI, so the PUBG Global Invitational.
Yes.
Have you done other PUBG events as well? I believe you have, right? And mobile ones as well.
Yes.
But you didn't work with any of the leagues this year. So PUBG Corp started its own esports initiative with 6 leagues and 3 additional competitive regions, and a lot of the kind of usual suspects were there involved as talent. So can you discuss that at all? Is that something you'd have been interested in doing? I know it's like a longer commitment rather than just like a weekend or a full week or something. It's like you're there for potentially months.
Yes, which is, in some ways, it's a really good thing, right? And I love stability. All the PUBG talent. Yeah, the stability is really nice. The idea of that's something I want in the future, I think. And oh my God, I get to work with like Sims and Pansy on the regular, which would just be class. Mm-hmm. But for me, I didn't know if I get to do the PUBG Europe League, PL, because they didn't decide on talent until the new year, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to commit to PUBG full time. Yeah. I did really want to do Counter-Strike, but I also did not know that I would get asked to do the major. I kind of first heard inklings in January, and that was a long week or so to wait to find out if I was going or not. Yeah. Oh my God. I definitely teared up a little bit when I got that one. So yeah, I did want to look into CS, but I had no idea it was going to be what it was this year. Yeah. So yeah, I had to, I think, make decisions about those commitments, and for me, it wasn't the right. I don't think it would have been the right move. But then again, like, I don't know that if I'd been asked to do it, then maybe I would have, but I'm not sure. I love PUBG though. It was really nice going to do PUBG Mobile in July. It was because I got to be with my mates again, like, from PUBG.
Was that the one in Berlin, PMCO?
Yes, the PUBG Mobile Club Open Global Spring Split Global Finals 2019.
I was there. I was there, right? Yeah. And you had to read out all of the teams and all of the names. Obviously, it's a global event, and that was incredibly cruel. I thought, why are you making you do that every day?
You know what? It's fine. I'm quite strict to myself with stage hosting. I don't like looking at cards, but obviously I had to for reading out the player names. Oh my goodness, and making sure I got the order right. For me, it was tough because I didn't sleep for the first 2 nights. I had not slept. And I'm really lucky. Because the PUBG talent is so amazing, and they kept me going. But I think that's the most sleep deprived I've been on a show. Apart from PGI in 2018, I didn't sleep the night before the first day. We had a long wait, and it was a very busy green room with like three different talent teams. And I remember literally being like, I need a room. I just need a room to lie down in. Yeah. I just need a room to sleep, because we were called like hours and hours before we were needed. And I just remember being there like, please, if I can just have somewhere to try and sleep for 2 hours. And then you get stressed about sleeping. And then I had a similar thing with ESL 1 New York, which we did in Cologne, the group stage. And I didn't sleep the night before. And I'd been on a flight at 4 a.m. So I was extra sleep deprived. It was the worst. But PUBG Mobile, that was tough. But the players were lovely. The translators were great. Production, like I was working with ESL Poland, who I love. So yeah, by the third day, I slept amazingly, and I came in and I had so much energy. It was crazy, and like I felt really bad for the other talent. I was just like, "Hey, I'm back." So yeah, I really enjoyed being back. So I'd love to do more PUBG in the future. I did desk host the first. No, I stage hosted. The first PUBG Classic of the year for Face It as well in April. So so I've done a little bit of PUBG this year. I need to stream some soon as well, because I love that game.
Even though it's not in, no, man, I'm not even going to get into that, because PUBG Cup don't like me already as it is, right? I don't know. There's many things going on there, especially like the Global Championship just happened. And viewership of the Global Championships year on year has gone down a lot. And I'm not saying it's entirely because you weren't there, but we don't know that for sure, right?
It's definitely nothing to do with me. You know what? When I did PUBG Mobile, not everyone knew. Obviously, PUBG Mobile is a different game to PUBG, but like people didn't know me at first. And then there were a few people in chat going, "Oh, she used to do PUBG and stuff like that." So I'm not necessarily endemic to that scene like I was, I would say, last year, because I did quite a few events. Yeah. But it's nice to go back to it when I can.
How do you choose games then? So what was the thought process behind, right, CSGO is the main one, but I'll also do a bit of PUBG Mobile, I'll do some PUBG, like what's the thought process there? Is it just simply I enjoy CSGO the most, so I want to work in there, or is it purely Skrilla based? What's the deal there?
I was gonna come out and say money, but that would be a joke and a lie, I promise. So for me, it's games I enjoy playing or enjoy watching. And for me, Counter-Strike, I just looked at the talent and the events they have. You know, like I haven't worked in ESL in Cologne, but oh god, I'd love to. And the majors and things like that. And Counter-Strike for me is a game with so many layers. You can watch it having never seen Counter-Strike before, and I'm often watching it in a kitchen or in the corner of a room which my other friends are in, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And then I end up kind of casting for them and trying to explain it. So when I look at CS, I just think it's such an accessible game. I love Rocket League, even though it's such a different game to Counter-Strike, but I love it for that similar aspect to it. Like anyone can watch Rocket League, and then you just explain to people just how hard it is to play and certain moves, and you're just like, oh, I thought I could hear something downstairs, and I was a bit freaked out. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you just like oh, now I'm scared, Adam.
Go check if you need to check.
I know, but this is ruining your podcast. Oh god, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. A bit of excitement for the potentially the first podcast. I think this will be the first one that goes out. If there's an intruder in Frankie's apartment or home, then that should bring in some views, right? But no, I feel like inserting yourself into a game that's rather closed in talent is like insanely difficult to do, and then taking on board the criticism and such as well, and then doing it in such a short space of time is ridiculous. So I mean, I don't know. I think maybe Frankie gets a lot of the wrong kind of attention instead of recognition. Obviously, she won back-to-back at the UK Esports Awards, and I think it's a matter of time, right? If she keeps things up, oh, there you go, she's back. and she's alive, so everything obviously went well. Everything good?
Hello.
Everything all right?
Yes, I think it's just my neighbours, actually. I went downstairs and I could hear them banging. Honestly, OCD is the worst. I have a fear of certain things. Oh, sorry, now I've run up and down the stairs. Yes, so different games. So, yeah, Counter-Strike to me was on its pedestal. The talent, the game, the teams, the legacy. PUBG, the reason I got into PUBG was because I was making a documentary about it when I still worked at Twitch. I went to IM Oakland in 2017. I still had the press pass from that one. And Counter-Strike was on one side of the curtain, PUBG was the other. And that's where I first met Sims. And when I got made redundant from Twitch, because so many jobs went in the same day, I wrote to DreamHack and I said, I'd love to host Here's My Showreel. One game I know a lot about at the moment is PUBG because of this, that, and the other. And then I got hired like a week later to go to Austin. So suddenly I was booked for that. I've got really into mobile gaming recently. I've actually spent money on Clash of Clans because I did it for ESL Hamburg and I've got into it.
Oh, it's dangerous, isn't it, mobile games like that?
Oh, so dangerous, because before that I'd only spent money on Candy Crush, really. So yeah, that was a dark period in 2015. I had to get a very long tube commute and I was obsessed with Candy Crush, man. Yeah, now I'm a walking stereotype. Woman who plays Candy Crush. Oh yeah, that's me. It is a game. It does count. Thank you very much. Yeah, I look at the game whether I enjoy it, the people that are involved, the production that's involved as well. Like if ESL asks me to do something, no matter what the game is, I'm probably going to consider it because I really respect ESL. And sometimes there are games I target, like really wanted to do Counter-Strike, really wanted to do Rocket League. Was a dream come true doing Overwatch World Cup because I was an Overwatch addict when I worked at Twitch. Every lunchtime, sometimes after work, I'd play it, sometimes in the morning. When I was working in the San Francisco office, I would stream it. I built a PC so I could play it at home and stream it from home. I was obsessed with Overwatch. So getting to be in the arena, like watching Jeff Kaplan do his like BlizzCon speech and all that kind of stuff, and standing backstage with him as we watched this advert for Lucio O's cereal, like that was surreal last year, man. That was really cool. So yeah, I guess for me it's a number of different factors. Like getting to do LEC straight after the major this year was like mad because League was what got me into esports. So I need to start actually properly playing League and learning more and more about that game. I'd love to do some Dota partly because the talent is so nice. There's so much fun. Like you cannot be in a room with Sir Action Slacks and not have a good time, which I know sounds weird. You can't be in a group of people where Sir Action Slacks is present and not have a good time. I need to say that because otherwise it sounds really weird.
I definitely won't clip that out of out of context and use it as promo.
I was in with them at ESL Hamburg, and I was in the dressing room or green room with them because we went on stage in the morning and then they were after us, and I was working on notes for a couple of CS events I had after that. And I just was kind of working from there because I just wanted to hang out with them. And they're really cool. I sound like such a geeky fangirl right now, but they're like,
nothing wrong with that.
Oh, they're so great. So yeah, it was really fun.
So I believe you're sponsored by Intel, right? Or you're in some sort of deal with Intel, right?
Yes, so Intel UK sponsored me and owned by HP as well.
Okay, does that cause any conflict, say, if you go to a non-ESL event? So ESL and Intel are pretty synonymous at this point, but if you go to an event that has a conflicting sponsorship, would that cause any problems?
No, I don't think so. It hasn't so far, because if it's not a headline sponsored event, then I don't think there's an issue. So obviously Intel do actually headline sponsor events like Intel Extreme Masters. So Intel is the perfect partner for me because I've literally been using Intel products my entire life pretty much. And with Omen by HP, like there are lots of other teams, right? So for example, Misfits, sponsored by Alienware, but they could go and do, or Liquid, sponsored by Alienware, right? But they could go and do Intel Extreme Masters Beijing, which have got Predator computers on the stage. Okay, they weren't there, but this is just a hypothetical example. They go and they use the computers that sponsor the event just because they're using the computers they're sponsored by when they're practicing for the event. So for me, hopefully it's not going to affect me doing events. I'm streaming and I'm making content on the go, and that's how my Intel and Omen sponsorship works. So I have an amazing, I have to say it's amazing because it is. I have this Intel powered, like i9 powered laptop with a 2080 RTX graphics card inside that Omen gave me. It's got 2 screens so I can see Twitch chat if I stream from it. And 240 hertz monitor. So before I did the show match at IEM Beijing, although I didn't have an Ethernet connection where I could connect to Counter-Strike via, I could still play against bots and like learn about the map that I was playing because I'd never played it before. So that really helped me. And yeah, for editing my podcast or if I'm editing vlogs and things like that, that supports me. And then I have a full Omen rig at home, keyboard, mouse, my screen that I'm using right now. So they're supporting me in that sense. And yeah, I'm really lucky. Like, I worked with Omen a lot last year. So it was like super cool that I still get to work with them, even though I'm not doing their show on a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got one more one more question, and it's probably the most controversial out of them, or the topic is at least.
Okay.
End things with a bang. No, it's fine. Hopefully, I don't think we'll hate each other after this. So there's a lot of conversation. It comes up quite often about women in esports, right, competing on the same level as men. So what do you think about it? Do you think it's impossible? Because the thing is, right, women have access to the same tournaments as men, right? Mm-hmm. If they can get there, why do you think typically? Obviously, we're seeing examples of finally like women playing along at the top of games, but why do you think there's such a disparity between the two? Do you think it's just things are settled better for men, or?
So I will refer you to a blog post I wrote on my website, which is getfrank.co.uk, everyone, where I write about my own personal experiences, because I've never had the desire to be a esports like player, pro player, what you want to call them. I know some people like the word athlete, some people don't. I'm on the fence. I'm agnostic about e-athletes or whatever.
Oh God.
So for me, yeah, I know. There you go. You hate it. I don't know what it's like to want to compete, but I do know what it was like being younger and wanting to try out games. And I did go to I went to a girls' grammar school until like when I was 16. Boys joined us in sixth form. And I also lived in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have decent internet connection. No one was introducing me to these games. Like, it was word of mouth, right? I got my games from a pre-owned bin, or if my dad had bought it, like Monkey Island series, we bought those games because we played them since I can remember, essentially. So I didn't have anyone introducing me to the likes of Half-Life or Counter-Strike and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, none of the girls at school were. So even though I had a PC, so technically I was a PC and PlayStation gamer when I was, teenager. I didn't have anyone to play with. So, and I've sort of mentioned this a few times, I feel really bad because like my ex-boyfriend wasn't a bad person, but it was a cultural thing where he went to the LAN center and played overnight, got a slip sign from his mum, you know the drill. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't welcome there. It was a kind of like, oh, you wouldn't enjoy it, oh, blah, 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 blah. So I didn't get to do those things.
Got you.
And I think that the environment, especially with broadband, that's a bit of a leveler. I think that things are changing, but I think that there still is a barrier potentially between like boys and girls playing the same games or picking them up at the same time and things like that. So not all games, of course. So I think that there's a cultural thing, actually. That's one of the biggest barriers. Okay. For example, I think like on the whole, women are fantastic communicators. Like if you watch my stream, sometimes like sometimes now I will top frag, but my main thing that I'm good at, to be honest, apart from using scoped weapons, which I know some people think is a cheat, but it's the meta, guys, so get over it.
It's in the game.
I'm good at passing on information. I'm good at communicating. Sometimes I get too like I will literally tell someone where the player is coming from, and sometimes I shouldn't really do that because I should just let them decide it for themselves if I get overexcited. But it's really hard, right, when you know that someone's coming around the corner and they're facing the wrong way, and you're just like, he's behind you, he's coming around the corner right now, he's coming down B stairs. But like sometimes I've had that information passed to me and it's been super useful. I won a clutch because someone has given me that advice. So yeah, I think culture is a huge part of it. I think that quite dangerous to quote scientific studies and say, oh, well, you can see here that like men are definitely faster at doing things than women are, because actually that was like a test involving tennis balls or something insane. And being a great player is not about necessarily being the best player in the world. But I think one of the things about Simple we've seen this year, for example, if we're going to talk more about CS, is like he's become a lot more team focused as a player. And I think going into 2020, it's going to be Navi's year. I think that the elements that they're playing with at the moment is going to come to fruition. I think Simple might win his first major next year because of that. Okay. Yeah, and Vitality are always very quick to say, we set Zywoo up with flash assists so he can play the way he does. Yeah. Delusion. Sorry, I'm digressing. I'm going off the point. Basically, I think that I want in the future for things to change, and I want there to be mixed rosters. But I'm also not saying, oh, we need to make changes to this, and this. Like, to the way Intel Extreme Masters works to get more women playing there, I think that it will happen, and it's got to happen at grassroots level first. For me, I will say something that was quite interesting to me doing DreamHack, hosting DreamHack Open in Rotterdam when we had Besiktas playing. Besiktas made a change just before the event, and they took a player from the Benelux team, Mysterion, and this guy was still training with his other team and had school or something, so he wasn't training full time with Besiktas in the run up to the event. So I don't think it was the best move. It was fine that it was a mixed roster, absolutely cool, like I was down with that, but I don't think it was the best choice in terms of a player. And at one point, I can't remember if it was like a Negev or an M249 he picked up. I think it was an M249. That would make more sense, I guess. Not that it really makes sense to me anyway. I think he picked up a gun like that or something like that. Like, this guy wasn't necessarily always playing for the team because he's been given this platform, so he's playing for himself at points. So the reaction on Reddit towards Besiktas was like predictably really cruel.
Right.
And they did make mistakes and things like that, but it was interesting seeing Petra start to shine towards the end of their time in that tournament. Like, she's a fantastic player, and they go into that tournament with knowing that these things are going to be written about them. And then on the flip side, you have Asterion. So Besiktas lost their opening best of one, I think 16-2, 16-3. Asterion lost their opening best of one, 16-1.
Right.
But there wasn't a Reddit thread about Asterion playing terribly. There was a Reddit thread about Besiktas playing terribly. So, you know, that's how Open works. You have these teams that come in through local or regional qualifiers. Besiktas played, then won the DreamHack Valencia Showdown. They both came through these qualifiers, right?
Yeah.
And both teams, to be honest, results-wise, did what was expected of them, at least in their opening matches anyway. So when I see those things on Reddit, sometimes it's like, do I dive in here? And it's like, no. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, right? I did actually a couple of times with one of those threads, but I have to pull back and realize that those aren't the people whose minds you need to change. You don't need to change their minds because they don't want them changed. They just want to weigh in on a topic, just to discuss it, but not necessarily to have a resolution to it.
Yeah.
But for what I realized when I played IEM Beijing, I did the show match. I was on a team with Mandarin speakers. On the opposite side is Stunner and Tarek. I was like, I'm gonna get crucified on Reddit. That was what I was thinking about before. I was just thinking, God, Twitch chat, Reddit, they're gonna crucify me. They're all gonna say awful things to me. So I set myself a challenge. I was like, I just need to get one kill. Just one kill. If I can kill Stunner, even better, because he's the other host on stage. That's all I need. Because there will be people who think I can't even get one.
Right.
I'm playing against these professional teams.
Exactly, yeah. It's
with a stage host next to me and then 3 professional players. But I was very excited that I was with Cardze and Freeman because I loved watching those two together at Vici. I was really sad when Freeman went to Thai League because I felt like Vici had such potential. But I was really excited to be with them again. Or again, not that, to have them together again and to be part of that. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went on, played, and then, there was one round where I got a double or a triple kill or something like that on the T side, which was exciting. But, like, you know, I didn't know the map. Was playing on stage, which was a good experience to have. You know, multiple things. My team were lovely, but it was like sometimes I bought when I didn't realize that they wanted to save and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then I won the last clutch.
I remember this.
And we won the match, right? I nearly cried, of course, because I didn't know I could do it. But the impact of that was, well, it was weird watching it back, right? I watched the match back because I wanted to write an article about it. Was seeing people in Twitch chat. People in Twitch chat was so supportive because I was the ultimate underdog. I was probably one of the biggest underdogs to ever be on a bloody CS show match, right? So people were supportive apart from someone being like, she won't get one kill. Then when I won the clutch, people were like, oh, white knighting, oh, blah, 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 blah. It was like, or someone in chat, someone on Reddit was like, her crosshair placement was terrible. Her movement, she kept looking at the ground. I watched it back. There is not one shot where I'm looking at the ground. There is not one shot.
Just looking for some shit to give, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was like, oh, that comment got, moderated to like be folded up or whatever it's called. But like, yeah, I wasn't amazing, but actually I took some opportunities and got them. And that was not scripted. People were writing scripted. It wasn't scripted. It was a beautiful moment, but it wasn't scripted. They made a mistake. I rotated around the desk twice. It's a really bizarre moment to watch back. I rotate because I think they're going to push me and they don't. There were two of them. They could have, like, that's a difficult map to flank on, especially if you don't know the ins and outs of it and mid and all that kind of stuff. But like, they didn't push me. They didn't trade. They just went behind the fan and I got them. And then the impact of that, the longer term impact, was I then streamed back at home. And then I don't know if I top fragged on my first game, or a secondary like top fragged, whatever you'd say, on the first match I played when I came back. Just a solo queue, competitive. Played a matchmaker with played Pop Flash with some of my community, and then I played a second competitive game. And I got 37 frags and I topped the server. And it was like, oh, like that match, being on that stage and doing my clutch queen thing. That's that. I'm only joking. Gave me so much confidence. I realized I could do it. I could actually do it. I have all these people telling me I can't all the time, telling me that I can't do it. But actually, when I try, when I don't think about that, sometimes I could do it. And my favorite thing, I was saying this in Twitch yesterday, my favorite thing I've read about me this entire year is, I think, in that Twitch chat, or sometimes in my own Twitch chat, but also in the Beijing Twitch chat, which is someone like writing, I've seen it once or twice, writing, she wins these when I'm in the clutch situation. I love that. Honestly, that's like the highest compliment anyone has paid me this entire year, is she wins these. And since Operation Shattered Web came in, they have these things on screen that sort of, the headshotter, the this, that, and the other. And I a few times since that's come in, a few times since I played, I get the clutch. And that's cool, man. That's my thing. I can do it. Great. She wins. And that's basically my roundabout way of saying that if we tell women they can do it, rather than saying why they won't, maybe we're going to see more of them on stage. Lion, I think that's her name, who won Hearthstone at the Hearthstone Championships at BlizzCon. She stood on stage, she said the same thing. I was told I shouldn't do this. I was told I couldn't do this. Mm-hmm. But actually, I stopped listening to them and I did it. And that's my message to anyone, male or female, who is really wanting this, who is really wanting to play on those stages and to prove themselves and to do this. You have to focus on yourself and not focus on what other people think of you, because actually if I did that, then I wouldn't be hosting. So yeah, that's my kind of parting shot.
No, I like it. And we'll wrap it up there. I want to say thank you very much for coming on. I'm pretty sure you'll be the first guest. This will go out first. So I really appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
And I wish you the best of luck going into the next year. I know you'll smash whatever you do, and you'll be winning another award, no doubt.
Oh God, thank you. No, I don't know about that. I genuinely don't, I just want to work, man. I just love working. I want to keep playing. I genuinely want to get better at CS. It feels really good to play at the moment. So, but I have a tiny desk and I keep bashing my hand or running out of mouse mat space. So I'm hoping that when I move house, I will get better.
You'll have to find a desk sponsor.
We'll see. Oh God, it's tempting, isn't it? But every sponsor I take, there's extra responsibility, right? So
of course.
I don't want to let anyone down by taking on too many things.
No, of course. Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Good luck with it.
Thank you to everyone who watches. I don't know. how it's all going to go. Hopefully your name will bring you some views. I'm sure it will. But I mean, yeah, it was really good to speak to you. I appreciate it. Because I don't know, I just kind of forced myself into doing this because I'm not the best of speakers. I'm much better sat behind a keyboard typing. But there we go. That's the first episode of the Adam Fitch podcast. Donna, how can people find you online if they wish to do so?
So they can find me online on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/Frankie. And then Twitter is @GetFrank. Instagram, GetFrankGames. So my Instagram story is currently mostly house renovation stuff. My Instagram feed, sadly, is mostly pictures of my face. And podcast. I have a podcast. It's called My Life in Pixels. So it's mostly me talking to people that I work with about how they got into the industry and all that jazz. And that is on iTunes, Spotify. It's on youtube.com/Frankie Ward. acast.com/GetFrank.
Bloody hell. My social media presence is much more uniformed than yours. If you want to find me anywhere, it's by Adam Fitch, and I'm there. So thank you again, Frankie, and thank you to everyone for listening and watching. I appreciate it.